The canopy!
Copy that. It's taking down whole trees like matchsticks.
Hold steady. It's crouching.
Before we uncover everything, like, comment, and subscribe to Mystery Footage Uncovered now.
This is not clickbait, not folklore, not CGI excuses wrapped in official silence. This is raw footage ripped straight from patrol cams, body cams, and forgotten storage drives where reality slipped and something else crawled through. Creatures with broken anatomies, impossible movement, reflective eyes that track officers behind the lens. Scenes where trained police freeze, where radios go silent, where scientists later admit, off record, that the biology doesn't make sense. And that terrifies them most of all. These are not monsters from stories. They are anomalies caught mid-adaptation, mid-evolution, mid-observation. Every clip raises the same unbearable question. If these are the ones accidentally recorded, how many were never seen? How many were erased, ignored, or classified before we could react? Watch closely, because once you see the patterns, you'll realize the footage isn't random. It's a warning.
Before we uncover everything, like, comment, and subscribe to Mystery Footage Uncovered now.
The roadwalker outside patrol. On a remote dirt road in East Africa, a forward-facing patrol dash camera recorded the figure as two wildlife police officers slowed their vehicle in disbelief. A distorted silhouette advanced, caught on camera, arms dragged longer than its stride, filmed without interruption. Reflective white eyes locked onto the windshield, scientists shocked. The entity's height appeared inconsistent with each step, shoulders slumping then rising as if the spine reconfigured mid-movement, skin oily and cracked like overheated rubber, limbs hanging like collapsed crane beams while motion stuttered and then surged forward, producing a sound witnesses described as wind tearing through bent metal mixed with a broken human exhale, leading analysts to speculate severe tissue deformation possibly caused by environmental radiation or uncontrolled gene expression, hunched like a wrecked pickup truck yet moving with the acceleration of an NFL sprinter. If it was reacting to the vehicle and not the road, how long before it learns what follows behind the headlights? The inverted torso capture. Inside an abandoned industrial complex in eastern China, a handheld police phone camera documented the subject as hazmat responders froze in place. A folded body convulsed on camera. Joints bent the wrong way, caught on film. Green-white eyes flickered toward the lens. No one believed. The torso appeared partially inverted beneath an overextended spinal column, limbs twisting through extra joint angles not consistent with human anatomy. Skin pale gray and blotched with an oily sheen, movement jerky, yet capable of sudden explosive speed, accompanied by a distorted vocalization combining mechanical grinding, wind pressure, and a faint human tone, with witnesses reporting a smell of hot metal mixed with rotting tissue, leading some researchers to suggest accelerated mutation possibly linked to chemical exposure, drawing comparisons to the Dover demon, whose historical sightings near industrial zones share the same smooth skin, oversized eyes, and unnatural limb articulation now visible in this footage. When something hides its face but never breaks eye contact, who is actually being examined? The muscle-stacked forest form. Along a narrow forest path in Southeast Asia, a stationary trail camera installed by local police recorded the entity as rangers watched remotely. A mass of flesh emerged, filmed, shoulders stacked unnaturally high, caught on camera. Eyes flashed white through dense leaves, scientists shocked. The creature displayed extreme muscular overgrowth compressing its apparent height, with limbs too thick yet bending at unnatural angles. Skin cracked and darkened like burned clay, movement occurring in uneven pulses before sudden bursts of speed, while audio captured a low, distorted sound described as wind forced through heavy machinery layered with a strained human undertone, prompting speculation of abnormal evolution driven by gene instability or radiation exposure. Heavy as a bison, yet silent as a stalking cat as it navigated undergrowth without disturbing foliage. If something that massive can move without leaving a trail, what else has learned to move only when we're not looking? The living room giant. Inside a private residence in the American Midwest, a fixed home security camera recorded the subject while a homeowner whispered from behind a closed door. An enormous body shifted, on camera. Skin folded endlessly, filmed in silence. Pale, reflective eyes glanced toward the hallway. No one believed. The figure showed extreme size distortion with a bloated torso dwarfing shortened limbs, skin oily and stretched into deep creases, movement slow and uneven but punctuated by sudden repositioning, accompanied by a wet, mechanical breathing sound layered with a faint human cadence, with witnesses describing an odor like heated metal mixed with decaying tissue, leading analysts to consider severe endocrine mutation or uncontrolled tissue growth. Massive like an overfilled water tank, yet repositioning with alarming ease. If it can exist unnoticed inside a lived-in home, how many familiar spaces are only quiet because we haven't triggered movement yet? The Horned Yard Entity. Within a rural compound in East Asia, a courtyard security camera recorded the subject tethered loosely as local authorities observed from a distance. A horned figure stood motionless, caught on camera. Skin hung loose over muscle, filmed clearly. Eyes reflected dull white in shade. Scientists shocked. The entity possessed elongated limbs with uneven joint spacing, pale gray skin stretched thin and blotched, movement minimal but tense as if coiled for sudden speed, emitting a low grinding sound mixed with wind-like resonance and a muted human tone, with witnesses noting a metallic rot odor, suggesting possible hybrid mutation or abnormal evolutionary branch. Its posture evoking mythic livestock demons yet grounded in disturbing biological detail rather than folklore exaggeration. If restraint is the only thing keeping it still, what happens when nothing is holding it anymore? The sewer extraction subject. Inside an underground sewer access in a major European city, a body-worn camera captured the moment responders pulled the entity into view. A slick form surfaced on camera. Limbs trembled with extra joints, caught on film. Green-white eyes snapped open, scientists shocked. The creature showed inconsistent height when extended, elongated forelimbs ending in warped digits, skin blotched, cracked and oily, movement spasmodic yet capable of sudden force, producing a distorted sound combining mechanical scraping, rushing air, and a strained human note, while the confined space amplified a stench of hot metal and rotten tissue, leading some to draw parallels to the Loveland Frogman, whose historic sewer-adjacent sightings, humanoid posture, and reflective eyes mirror details now visible in this footage, suggesting an evolutionary offshoot adapted to subterranean survival. If it adapted to live beneath us this long, what made it decide to surface now? The collapsed face behemoth. In a dry woodland clearing, a handheld phone camera recorded the entity as a civilian cautiously reached forward under supervision from nearby rangers. A massive head rested low on camera. Facial structure sagged unnaturally, caught on film. Pale eyes barely reflected light. Scientists shocked. The creature's height appeared compressed into its skull and shoulders, with skin folded thickly like collapsed concrete slabs, limbs hidden beneath bulk yet subtly repositioning, skin pale gray and oily with deep cracks, movement minimal but tense as if conserving energy, while witnesses described a low breathing sound blending wind through tunnels with a strained human undertone, alongside a smell likened to hot metal and damp tissue, prompting speculation of extreme tissue hypertrophy, possibly driven by genetic malfunction or environmental exposure. Heavy as a grounded tank, yet disturbingly aware of touch. If something this massive remains still by choice, what signals would make it decide to rise? The river spider subject. In a shallow mountain river, a handheld phone camera recorded the scene as a bystander stood waist-deep filming with visible hesitation. Multiple limbs surfaced, filmed. Jointed legs spread wider than expected, caught on camera. Clusters of reflective eyes faced forward, no one believed. The entity displayed inconsistent height depending on posture, with elongated limbs featuring extra joints, skin dark, wet, and cracked with an oily sheen, movement jerky in the water yet capable of sudden forward surges, producing a clicking grind sound mixed with rushing air and a faint human-like vibration, leading researchers to speculate abnormal evolution possibly caused by isolation or radiation runoff. Its body low and wide like a wrecked bridge crawler, yet moving with the precision of a hunting drone. If it allowed itself to be filmed at arm's length, was it assessing the camera or the person behind it? The four-footed pigeon anomaly. In a residential yard, a consumer phone camera captured the animal as neighbors gathered behind a fence. A bird stepped forward on camera. Extra limbs touched wood, caught on film. Eyes reflected white in daylight, scientists shocked. The creature resembled a pigeon but possessed elongated rear limbs with joint articulation resembling mammalian structure, height uneven as it shifted weight, skin beneath feathers pale and blotched, movement twitchy but capable of sudden hops, emitting a warped coo layered with a thin mechanical echo, leading some to compare it to the Loveland frogman, whose historic sightings include hybrid limb structure and suburban proximity, suggesting this footage may represent a smaller evolutionary offshoot rather than folklore exaggeration. If mutation can hide inside something familiar, how many ordinary shapes are no longer what they seem? The alleyway rat humanoid. In a narrow urban alley, a fixed security camera recorded the subject as trash bags shifted nearby. A squat figure emerged, filmed, limbs bent low and wide, caught on camera. Eyes flashed pale green, no one believed. The entity's height remained inconsistent, torso swollen while limbs stayed short and overflexed, skin hairless, oily, and cracked. Movement stiff, then abruptly fast, accompanied by a grinding squeal, mixed with breathy human tones and a strong odor of hot metal and rot, suggesting abnormal hybrid mutation or aggressive urban adaptation, compact as a sewer drum yet moving with sudden predatory intent. If it survives off what we discard, how closely has it learned our habits? The split-faced shore creature. On a muddy shoreline, a handheld phone camera recorded the animal as a bystander knelt nearby. A body pressed into sand on camera, facial tissue folded outward, caught on film. Eyes reflected white beneath water glare, scientists shocked. The creature showed extreme cranial deformation with skin layered thickly, limbs obscured yet flexing beneath mass, skin pale and slick with cracks, movement sluggish but capable of sudden lurches, producing a distorted sound like wind over steel pipes mixed with a muted cry, leading to speculation of deep water mutation or radiation exposure. Its form heavy as a grounded buoy yet disturbingly reactive to movement. If it surfaced only briefly, what does it do where cameras can't follow? The forest-backed bison form. Within a dense forest, a zoomed phone video captured the animal as it moved laterally between trees. A broad shape passed through brush, filmed. Spine rose unevenly, caught on camera. Eyes reflected dull white, scientists shocked. The creature resembled a bison, but with an exaggerated dorsal ridge, limbs longer than expected and bending at odd angles, skin dark, cracked and hair sparse, movement steady, then suddenly accelerated, emitting a low, wind-grinding sound with a faint human resonance, leading some to draw parallels to the skinwalker, whose historical woodland sightings involve distorted livestock forms and unnatural movement, suggesting this footage may document a biological counterpart rather than myth. If the forest reshapes what enters it, what decides which forms are allowed to leave? The three-faced den sentinel. At the mouth of a rocky burrow in an arid region, a handheld phone camera recorded the entity as a civilian froze several steps away. Three identical faces emerged on camera, necks fused into one torso caught on film. Eyes reflected pale white from the darkness, scientists shocked. The creature's height shifted as its forelimbs advanced, with one arm longer and jointed incorrectly, skin pale and stretched tight over muscle, movement cautious but capable of sudden forward snaps, while audio captured a layered sound resembling wind, forced through pipes mixed with overlapping human breaths, prompting speculation of embryonic fusion or extreme genetic malfunction, its stance wide like a collapsed tripod, yet balanced with predatory control. If one body can process three fields of vision at once, how much of its surroundings does it already understand? The roadbound limb anomaly. On a rural roadway, a bystander's phone camera recorded a man standing still as passing vehicles slowed, a leg extended far below normal proportion on camera, bone alignment bent unnaturally, caught on film. Eyes avoided the lens entirely, no one believed. The limb appeared elongated with uneven joint spacing, skin pale and taut as if stretched beyond capacity, movement stiff, then suddenly fluid, producing a faint scraping sound with each step described as metal against stone, leading some analysts to suggest localized mutation or neurological distortion affecting growth and motor control, upright like a person, but moving with the imbalance of something still learning gravity. If mutation can exist openly on a public road, how many people have we dismissed simply because they didn't fit the expected shape? The cave water maw entity. Inside a narrow cave tunnel partially flooded, A mounted flashlight camera recorded the figure as explorers halted mid-step. A hunched form surfaced, filmed. Teeth reflected red in the beam, caught on camera. Eyes glowed through dripping stone. Scientists shocked. The entity's limbs were too long for the passage, joints bending backward to fit the space. Skin dark, slick and cracked, movement jerky but explosively fast in water, emitting a sound like grinding gears layered with a breathy human growl, with a strong odor of hot metal and decay, leading to speculation of subterranean adaptation or radiation-induced mutation, crouched like a wrecked ATV yet poised to lunge. If it waited silently in water this shallow, how deep does it go where light never reaches? The shoreline cartilage giant. On a dark beach, a handheld phone camera captured the moment a civilian restrained the creature's head. A massive cartilage structure sagged on camera. Teeth misaligned inside a soft jaw, caught on film. Eyes reflected dull white under artificial light, scientists shocked. The body showed extreme cranial deformation, skin oily and rubber smooth with deep folds, limbs obscured beneath mass yet flexing suddenly, movement sluggish until brief violent thrashes, producing wet mechanical sounds mixed with a muffled human tone, suggesting abnormal growth of connective tissue possibly driven by environmental exposure. Heavy as a beached engine block, yet reactive to pressure. If something like this can be handled briefly, what happens when it decides resistance is no longer optional? The Chernobyl mouth-formed fish. Near a contaminated waterway, a phone camera recorded the fish as it was lifted from the water by a gloved hand. A second mouth opened wide, filmed. Jaw structure split unnaturally, caught on camera. Eyes reflected flat white, scientists shocked. The creature displayed duplicated oral structures with distorted cartilage, skin blotched and pale with an oily sheen, movement erratic yet powerful, producing a clicking sound mixed with rushing air, leading researchers to speculate radiation-induced gene expression errors affecting craniofacial development. Small as a carp, but built like a biological warning label. If this is what survives where humans can't, what does long-term exposure actually favor? The road-spanning centipede, mass. Along a muddy village road, a low-angle phone video recorded the creature as residents stood back in silence. Segmented armor stretched endlessly, on camera. Dozens of limbs moved out of sync, caught on film. Eyes reflected faint white near the head, scientists shocked. The entity's length distorted perception of height, with extra-jointed legs extending at unnatural angles, skin black, glossy, and cracked, movement rippling but capable of sudden acceleration, producing a sound like rain on metal sheets mixed with a dry human hiss, suggesting abnormal gigantism or accelerated evolutionary pressure, long as a city bus, yet navigating the road with deliberate control. If it already occupies the path between homes, how long before it learns which doors matter most? The backyard rusher entity. In a fenced residential backyard, a motion-triggered security camera recorded the entity as a homeowner watched from inside. A low shape charged forward on camera, limbs stretched longer mid-stride, caught on film. White reflective eyes flared at lens level. Scientists shocked. The creature's height appeared inconsistent as its spine dipped and rose, skin pale pink and oily with visible cracking along the jawline. Forelimbs bending at extra joints, while hind legs snapped forward with jerky precision, its movement stuttering, then exploding into speed, accompanied by a distorted sound. Witnesses described as wind force through a metal throat layered with a broken human snarl, suggesting severe tissue deformation or accelerated mutation, built like a hairless canine but moving like a sprung steel trap. If it crossed the yard in seconds, how long had it been waiting just beyond the fence line? The six-limbed livestock form. In a controlled studio environment, a high-resolution camera documented the subject as handlers kept distance. An ungulate frame stood still, on camera. Extra legs flexed beneath the torso, caught on film. Eyes reflected dull white under lights. Scientists shocked. The animal displayed a distorted body plan with six limbs arranged unevenly, skin slick, pale, and stretched tight with visible pooling at the abdomen, joints angled unnaturally yet supporting weight, movement slow but mechanically precise, emitting a low grinding breath with a faint human undertone, prompting speculation of embryonic duplication or catastrophic gene expression error, shaped like a goat, reassembled from mismatched instructions. If such structural failure can still function, what other forms survive unnoticed simply because they don't move fast? The airborne rhino contact. From inside a helicopter cockpit, a mounted camera recorded the encounter as a pilot turned sharply. A massive horn filled the frame, filmed. Skin texture appeared stone-cracked, caught on camera. A yellow-white eye locked upward, scientists shocked. The creature's scale dwarfed treetops, with an exaggerated cranial horn and shoulders rising above the canopy, limbs obscured but driving explosive forward motion, skin dark gray and fissured like dried concrete, movement surprisingly agile for its mass, producing a deep wind roar mixed with a metallic resonance through the airframe, leading some analysts to compare it to skinwalker lore, involving oversized livestock forms and unnatural pursuit behavior, suggesting a biological echo rather than myth. If something that large reacts to aircraft movement, what else in the wild has learned to look up? The driveway mantis standoff. In a suburban driveway, a handheld phone camera recorded the encounter as a homeowner backed away. A towering insectoid shape rose on camera, forelimbs hinged like blades, caught on film. Eyes reflected pale green in daylight, scientists shocked. The entity resembled a praying mantis, but stood far taller than expected. Limbs elongated with extra joint articulation, skin smooth and pale with faint cracking along the thorax, movement slow and jerky until sudden snaps forward, producing a dry clicking sound mixed with a breathy human hiss, suggesting abnormal gigantism or rapid evolutionary divergence. Upright, like a garden statue, but reacting with predatory awareness. If something evolved this fast beside our homes, how many steps behind its adaptation are we already? The poolside watcher form. Beside a residential swimming pool, a fixed phone camera recorded the creature as it pulled itself onto stone. A compact body surfaced on camera. Fangs protruded from a distorted mouth, caught on film. Eyes reflected stark white against water glare, scientists shocked. The entity showed a compressed height with oversized head and elongated forelimbs. Skin dark, oily, and wrinkled with patchy hair loss. Movement twitchy yet capable of sudden lunges, emitting a wet clicking growl, layered with a human-like gasp, leading some to draw comparisons to the chupacabra, citing similar facial structure, predatory posture, and residential proximity reported in earlier sightings. If it chose the pool edge instead of hiding, what made it confident nothing would challenge it? The basin-borne humanoid mass. In an outdoor rural yard, a handheld phone camera recorded a sealed metal basin being opened by several adults. A human-shaped mass was revealed, filmed. Skin glistened unnaturally smooth, caught on camera. Eyes remained closed yet responsive, scientists shocked. The figure displayed extreme body enlargement with shortened limbs and distorted proportions, skin oily and stretched with deep creases, movement minimal but reactive to vibration, producing a low humming sound mixed with breathy human tones and a faint odor likened to heated metal and damp tissue, raising speculation of uncontrolled tissue growth or artificial acceleration, shaped like a person frozen mid-evolution rather than a finished organism. If something like this can be created or found out in the open, who decides which outcomes are never meant to be seen? The rooster-bodied humanoid. In a rubble-strewn construction site, a handheld phone camera recorded the creature as workers stopped several meters away. A featherless body crouched, on camera. Muscle bulged beneath pale skin, caught on film. Eyes reflected white under direct sun, scientists shocked. The entity showed inconsistent height, its torso compressed while limbs elongated with extra joint articulation, skin blotched and oily like exposed tissue, movement jerky yet capable of explosive hops, producing a rasping sound described as wind through broken vents mixed with a strained human gasp, leading analysts to speculate catastrophic gene crossover or artificial manipulation, shaped like a rooster stripped to muscle, but standing with human balance and intent. If something built this wrong can still move with purpose, what does it think it was meant to replace? The deck recorded tentacle form. Visible on a handheld deck camera aboard a fishing vessel, the entity was recorded as crew members reached toward it. A human-like face stared forward, on camera. Multiple tentacles flexed outward, caught on film. Eyes reflected dull white against metal, scientists shocked. The creature's body showed extreme deformation, torso elongated with ringed segments, limbs replaced by thick, jointless appendages that moved independently, skin slick and cracked with an oily sheen, motion slow but powerful, accompanied by a wet mechanical grinding sound, layered with a hollow human tone, suggesting deep-sea mutation or abnormal evolution under pressure, upright like a drowned man, but spreading like a living engine. If it survived being hauled into open air, what else has learned how to endure our environment? The industrial slug mass. Inside a flooded processing facility, a phone camera recorded the organism as workers stood behind containment barriers. A massive gelatinous body sagged on camera, skin dripped continuously, caught on film, eyes reflected faint white through mucus, scientists shocked. The entity displayed extreme size distortion with no clear skeletal structure, limbs reduced to vestigial nubs, skin pale yellow and translucent, movement slow but relentless, emitting a low suction-like sound mixed with a breathy human resonance, while witnesses described a strong odor of hot metal and decaying tissue, raising speculation of accelerated growth through chemical exposure, heavy as industrial machinery, yet biologically alive. If mass alone can become a survival strategy, how do you stop something that only needs to keep expanding? The mask-faced koi anomaly. In a blue containment pool, a handheld phone camera captured the fish as observers leaned closer. A face-like pattern surfaced on camera, fins extended like arms, caught on film. Eyes reflected flat white beneath water glare, scientists shocked. The creature showed abnormal cranial markings resembling facial features, body length inconsistent with species norms, fins bending at unnatural angles, skin smooth but cracked along pigment lines, movement fluid, yet punctuated by sudden directional snaps, producing a clicking water sound mixed with a faint human-like exhale, leading some to suggest neurological mutation or selective breeding gone wrong. If something this altered still swims calmly in plain sight, how many changes go unnoticed simply because they're beautiful? The night shore face, mass. On a dark, rocky shoreline, a handheld phone camera recorded the subject as a man braced it with both hands. A human-like face emerged on camera, teeth bared from a soft body, caught on film. Eyes reflected stark white in direct light. Scientists shocked. The organism displayed a compressed height with an oversized head-like structure, no visible limbs, skin gray, oily, and deeply creased, movement sluggish but capable of sudden convulsions, emitting a wet, grinding sound mixed with a distorted human cry, with witnesses noting a smell of hot metal and rot, suggesting advanced tissue mimicry or deep-water mutation. If it learned our faces without needing a body like ours, what else has it been studying? The sewer swarm emergence. On a city sidewalk, a fixed phone camera recorded the moment the cover shifted. Dozens of entities poured out on camera. Limbs struck pavement in unison, caught on film. Eyes reflected red, white, and shadow, scientists shocked. Each creature showed inconsistent height with elongated limbs and extra joints. Skin dark, cracked, and glossy. Movement chaotic, yet coordinated, producing a sound like rain on metal mixed with a collective human hiss, suggesting hive-based mutation or accelerated urban adaptation, small individually but overwhelming in number. If they only surface together, how many are still waiting below for the signal to move? What you've just witnessed is not a collection of isolated clips, not a parade of internet curiosities meant to shock and fade. Taken together, these fragments form a pattern, one that feels unfinished, unresolved, and uncomfortably close to home. Across forests, backyards, sewers, rivers, and abandoned industrial spaces, the same questions echo. How much have we already changed the world without noticing what it changed into? These creatures, deformed, adaptive, silent, watching, may never be officially acknowledged. Footage like this rarely comes with explanations, only reactions, hesitation, fear, disbelief, and the instinct to keep filming even when every nerve says to run. And that may be the most unsettling truth of all, that something is happening at the edges of our awareness, recorded accidentally, dismissed quickly, and then buried under normal life. But once you've seen it, you can't unsee it. The darkness feels closer, the silence feels intentional, and every shadow starts to look like it's waiting. If you believe this footage deserves to be examined, questioned, and remembered, like, comment, and subscribe to Mystery Footage Uncovered. Share your theories, challenge the narrative, stay alert, because the footage may have stopped, but the watching clearly hasn't.